Have you ever wondered what is ultimately the purpose of training? What is the end goal of training? Whatever you're pursuing, whatever activity interests you, whether it be running, skiing, judo, boxing, weightlifting, strength training, any kind of martial art, bodybuilding, basketball, football. It doesn't necessarily have to be physical, actually. It could be writing, painting, filmmaking, etc. But what is the point of staying on the track and staying persistent? Well, aside from the obvious reason, which you may already think of yourself, aside from personal improvement and development, see how good you can become, how much potential you can unlock, there's even a more important reason, if you ask me, and that is that you are preparing yourself for life. So I'd like to share a quote with you from Miyamoto Musashi, I believe, legendary Japanese swordsman from the 1600s, if I'm not mistaken. Fascinating figure, dedicated his life to the art of dueling. I believe he was unbeaten in more than 60 duels, but he said at one point, I read, quote goes as following: from one thing, know 10,000 things. So what does that mean? When you are totally and completely immersed in one field and you're trying to master it, the knowledge which you're going to obtain is going to extrapolate into everything that you do in life. So mastery certainly doesn't come on accident. It requires a large degree of conscientiousness. It requires diligence, perseverance, accuracy. So when you are there and you are training and you do it consistently, and a lot of the times it's pretty mundane, it's not particularly, you don't see results immediately, but you still do it. And you do it repeatedly. And you do it day after day. You do it for 100 days, 200. You do it for years. What you are doing, this is sort of a byproduct of your training, I think. You are literally, in a way, rewiring your brain. I'm not a neuroscientist by any means, but you are rewiring your brain. You're training your mind. You are, in a way, as David Goggins would say, callousing your mind. So when you are there, when you're running, and your mind is telling you all sorts of things, and you start saying, what are you doing? This does not feel good. Quit this. This is, and you're training, you're always saying no. You remain disciplined. You say, no, this is what we must do. You are taking control of your mind. You're training your mind. You are now in charge. So, in life, when you go about your life, you're preparing for life when you're training. And a lot of bad things can happen in your life: disappointments, setbacks, failures, dealing with dishonest, despicable, heinous, treacherous people, But when you then get exposed to it, you have built that mental fortitude, and you are now better prepared. You know how to handle it. You've been there. So that is the reason. It's an increased self-reliance is actually the reason to go out train. I encourage everyone to go out train, and I will do it continually, regardless of your age. It does have some potent effects on you. Immediate potent effects. If you've ever struggled with fulfillment, you've ever struggled with meaning, with a sense of inui, I always tell people, if you've ever, you go there and you are exposed and you complete something excruciating, something very demanding, challenging. When you are there, you get to know all about spirituality there. You go into a boxing ring with a worthy adversary and endure all rounds. You're there, trying to complete a marathon. You do something physically demanding, just the moment afterwards. This, if you've ever asked, if you're curious, if you ask me what is the feeling of fulfillment, some people may say, fulfillment is my children, to be with my children. Fulfillment is the fact that I can get to do this, my hobby, or fulfillment is that. We all have maybe different interpretations of what fulfillment is, but one thing that I could say that is pretty relatable and it's pretty fulfilling and it's pretty cleansing, it gives you a feeling of solace. It's just the moment after you've completed something excruciating, something physically demanding. That is fulfillment. Some people would call it, when you runner's high, if you've heard of that. And it allows you to become totally present and aware. So, again, the potency of training, the potency of exposure are not to be neglected.